Hello, and welcome back to the Inspiration Station podcast. On this week's jam-packed episode, you will be equipped with the tools necessary to embrace the entrepreneurial mindset through an empathic lens and learn about the Charles Chang Certificate in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We also explore Tech E at SFU and how you can build a high-impact startup from the ground up while working in an interdisciplinary fashion to find innovative solutions to real problems. Let's dive into the episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Inspiration Station podcast. My name is Carson. Welcome to today's episode. I'm so excited to introduce our wonderful guest. So, without further ado, in this episode of the Inspiration Station podcast, we are speaking to a remarkable individual who is making a profound impact through their dedication to entrepreneurship and empowerment. Join us as we introduce the marketing lead of Employ to Empower, a Vancouver-based nonprofit organization. Their passion for entrepreneurship and social impact led them to join Employ to Empower, where they play a pivotal role in marketing and amplifying the organization's mission. Through their efforts, they strive to empower individuals, foster an entrepreneurial mindset, and create opportunities for those in need. Throughout their academic journey, this person holds a Bachelor of Arts in Health Sciences from SFU and a Certificate of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. They were actively engaged in various extracurricular activities and societies, including UNICEF SFU, SFU Dragon Boat, SFU Surge, TEDx SFU, and the Tech E SFU program. With a deep understanding of the power of entrepreneurship to drive positive change, voices of changemakers like Vivian Wong shine bright. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and equipped with the tools to embrace an entrepreneurial mindset and make a difference in the world. Welcome, Vivian Wong, to the Inspiration Station podcast.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm very excited to get the honor to speak on the Inspiration Station. And thank you for having me.
We met about 15 minutes ago, and the vibes are already immaculate.
Yes.
So welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. I introduced you sort of as the marketing lead of Employ to Empower, which is a nonprofit in Vancouver. I'm curious to learn a little bit about that. What does Employ to Empower do, and what is your involvement as marketing lead?
Definitely. Well, Employ to Empower, like you said, is a local nonprofit that supports low-income individuals through entrepreneurship. And it was actually co-founded by an SFU alumni, Krysta Wong, who I want to give a huge shout out to. And basically in the organization, we are fostering a non-traditional entrepreneurship model where we invite anyone and everyone to be their own boss and to pursue their passions. So in our program, we kind of have 3 different pillars. Participants can come in and do like a 10-week business skills training program where they learn about market research, customer discovery, marketing, so everything that we learn at SFU as well. And then once they kind of complete that pillar, they go into mentorship where they get access to one-on-one support, microloans, and then at the end, if they're interested, we also have a community partnerships model where they can be kind of involved in external events such as the Cardboard Project. And in my role as a marketing lead, I have the responsibility of ensuring that ETE's messaging is kind of like positively and accurately displayed to the general public, but I also get to work on a lot of minor projects and just doing a whole bunch of things. And I think that's the beauty of being in a startup. You do everything and everything in a very positive kind of work environment.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It sounds like Employ to Empower has quite the reach in the Vancouver area, and they're definitely very lucky to have you as a member there.
Thank you.
I also made mention at the very beginning that you've done quite a bit of programming at SFU. In relation to the Chang Institute, one of those is Tech E.
Yes.
So I'm curious to dive a little bit deeper into your involvement with Tech E. And before we do that, I'm sort of interested in what drove you to choose Tech E in the first place.
Definitely. It's something I also reflected on as I recently just graduated last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congrats to everyone else as well. And I think I would start off with where my entrepreneurship journey kind of started. So when I first joined SFU, it was I was going to be a criminology student. And then that never happened. And I only found my passion for entrepreneurship in my third or fourth year. And that was when I took Business 238, Introduction to Innovation and Entrepreneurship, where I just fell in love with being able to have fun, to solve challenging problems. But specifically for the Tech E program, I believe the topic was health and wellness.
Okay.
And coming from a health sciences background, I was like, that's up my alley. Why not give it a shot? And I'll also lie though, if I wasn't hesitant, because as a health sciences student, I always felt like maybe I shouldn't be doing entrepreneurship because everyone else isn't. And I was literally going into this 1-year program alone. But what I really liked about what the program offered was it gives students the opportunity to be in the startup world and to build a startup without all the scary things. So you don't have to have a lot of money. You don't need to have a lot of knowledge or people. You just need to have a group of people, which I'm very honored to have. It was 7 of us on a team, and we worked everything out through the wins and the losses. But it was just a fun way where I got to step out of my comfort zone and be an entrepreneur, and that's kind of where it took off. But yeah. So
that's fun. And so is that where you would say is where the entrepreneurial mindset sort of sparked within you?
Definitely. I think taking that program, it not only sparked it, but it proved to myself that we are all entrepreneurs. It's not like you have to have all these credentials. It's when you bring people together who believe in an idea and you make it happen, that's the definition of entrepreneurship for me. And in the program, you learn about how to do an elevator pitch. How do you do customer interviews and all that? And you don't ever learn that outside of the program, or in my own faculty at least. So I would highly also recommend everybody to do the program as well.
Yeah, and I think that the way you just defined entrepreneurship as someone who is literally anybody who is passionate for an idea, that is exactly what we like to hear at the Chang Institute, because literally anybody is an entrepreneur. And you're a great example of somebody who was curious about it and actually took action on it. And that being said, since you did take Biz 238, which is the introductory course to entrepreneurship at SFU, I would like to know what is a memorable experience that you've taken away from the course, or a valuable lesson that you may have learned.
2 stories. The first one, I think the most memorable moment in Biz 238 was the capstone project that we have to do. So I took this class during the pandemic when it was virtual learning. And my team and our idea at the end was called Shop in a Box. And it was basically bringing the holidays to your doorstep, because we couldn't go Christmas shopping, and we were like, we need gifts for our family. And that was really memorable because we just had fun the entire project. We didn't really worry about if we had enough money or anything, and we created a really cool poster, and we just believed in the idea. So I think that was the most memorable.
Awesome.
But the funny story I also wanted to share is also just to let people know that in the world of entrepreneurship, you might feel alone or stressed, but you definitely aren't, because when I took my Biz 238 final, it was also a take-home final online. I was so stressed in the moment because I was I need to get the right answers as an entrepreneur, all that. I literally broke down and cried in front of my professor, Simon Ford. I don't know if you're listening.
Simon Ford.
And he was the kindest. He was like, Vivian, you got this. Just take a deep breath. So I think those are my 2 top memorable moments in Biz 238.
Just the reassurance of the fact that you are in the right place.
Yes.
I'm really drawn to the fact that you were so passionate for an idea that you had in your 238 final project, and it just goes to show that when you are passionate for something, and just finances aren't a boundary, and just the world is your oyster essentially. If you're passionate for it and you really do sit down and think about it and pursue that passion of yours, you can make anything happen.
For sure.
And that is something that I think a lot of people in our audience are struggling with. They might have these great ideas, such as what you had, but they don't know how to take that idea and put it into action. And I think 238, I don't know about you, but 238 would be a great place to sort of understand where you are with your venture idea and how you can actually make that happen.
100%. And I think Biz 238 is also a breath sci or a breath social course.
I think it is as well.
So it also hits like two birds with one stone. And I can say confidently, like, once you take that class, there's no like turning back. Like, you'll have so much fun in it.
What does that sound?
Oh my gosh.
That is the chime for the Mindset Matters Minute. It is a segment on our podcast that we do every single episode.
Okay.
You don't know about it.
No, I kind of got scared with that one.
So I'm going to explain what it is, okay? So the entrepreneurial mindset at the
Mm-hmm.
Chang Institute, there are 12 attributes.
Okay.
And each of them they're very different, but they're all very hand in hand with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we have carefully selected one to present to you.
Okay.
And you are going to have 1 minute
Oh,
after I present
snap.
the word to you.
Okay.
To provide your definition of that word.
Okay.
Whether that's through providing a story, the textbook definition that's existing in your
Mm-hmm.
brain, whatever that may be. Are you game?
I'm game.
Okay, so your word is empathy.
Ooh, that's a very deep word. I don't know why, but this is going to be part of my definition, and I'm looking at the timer if I'm looking here. But empathy, when you said that, kind of made me want to cry. And I might not have the perfect definition of what empathy is, but I think the first thing I thought of is just being vulnerable, but being vulnerable to yourself. I think in the entrepreneurship path, there's going to be lots of ups and downs, and a lot of times you're fighting it alone. So I'm not crying, don't worry. But I think it's just being vulnerable to yourself and checking in of like, are you like happy with where you are now? Like with all your like social wellness things. So like your social life, your physical life, your intellectual, your spiritual, your intellectual, whatever. Did you take yourself out on a walk or like on a coffee date? And empathy is also something that doesn't have to be planned. So I'm really focusing on self-empathy rather than feeling for others. And once you find like your own happy place, then I think you would live empathy every day. I think something strange that I was sharing, Krysta's hiding the timer, but every day when I go on the train and I go to work, my face is always facing the SkyTrain, and I always smile to myself. And I think that's when you know you've made it, because you can make yourself happy. And then if it doesn't happen, I whisper to myself in my work elevator, let's get this bread. And all my feelings just kind of like dissolve. So I think that's how I would define empathy in the Vivian way. And I don't know the time, but yeah.
What a fantastic response, Vivian.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being vulnerable and
Yes.
sharing that with us. I definitely think that there is something very special about being able to, forget about whatever is going on in your life and just really truly living in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're a great example of somebody who can do that, especially through, just standing in the elevator and being like, let's get this bread. Like, come on.
Yes.
Like being a self-motivator and an empathic individual it radiates from you.
Thank you. Great job choosing the word as well. Like, bang on.
Props to Krysta for that. She did a great job. You also made mention about going down the entrepreneurial path alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is a great opportunity for me to remind you and our listeners that you never are alone.
Yes.
Even through like your experience in Biz 238,
Mm-hmm.
you met all these wonderful people who
Yeah.
are curious about entrepreneurship and wanted to learn more about it. And you're all in that same boat together.
Mm-hmm.
And you all start in the same place and you go on that journey together.
Yeah.
And there's never, ever a place in the world of entrepreneurship where you don't have somebody to reach to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a member of SFU, you have the luxury of having access to the resources that we have at the Chang Institute.
Yes.
Some of those are some valuable mentoring that we have,
Mm-hmm.
and the incubator programs that we have for ventures. So now I'm sort of wondering, when you sort of approached entrepreneurship, you were in the health sciences realm.
Yeah.
What brought you to entrepreneurship from the health sciences?
Yes, I think from a health sciences background, I kind of briefly mentioned a lot of it is based off of research or just clinical things that wasn't my cup of tea. And I think what kind of made me go into entrepreneurship was also just challenging myself and putting myself outside of my comfort zone and be like, hey, I might be different, but I'm pretty sure there's other people at SFU that may not be from a business background who wants to start something or become an entrepreneur. And I think maybe just like taking the risk of doing entrepreneurship was a huge thing for me. And just talking to a lot of people in the Chang Institute, but also in the business classes that you take, if someone does complete the Certificate of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, you also get to build a whole community because you all take classes together.
Yeah.
And I think that was also something that made me stay in the path of entrepreneurship. And yeah, kind of reminded me I don't have to just be health sciences. I can be more than that, but also merge my two passions together and see where that kind of takes me, at least in the near future.
Yeah, and look where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've arrived at a great place where you're able to actually practice that in your day-to-day.
Yeah.
So in your time at SFU, in your time within SFU's entrepreneurship ecosystem, you completed the certificate for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. One of the courses in that certificate is Biz 230H, which is the introductory course. And then it expands quite a bit from there. You have a lot of options in terms of courses that you can take.
Yes.
I'm curious to know what was your favorite course that you took, and what might be some advice you have for anybody who's considering the certificate?
I think ultimately my favorite course from the whole certificate was perhaps Biz 338, which I believe is like Introduction to Innovation. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong.
Foundations of Innovation.
Perfect. But that was really fun because, again, that was also one of the first classes that I took alone going in, and questioning, like, is entrepreneurship for me? But in this class, you really get to work closely with a community partner that the course provides. And we got to work with a company called Discovello. And it was basically, they were in their pre-seed startup stage.
Okay.
And they were trying to bring like a bicycle, kind of like Peloton, but for kids who are homeschooled. And during this course, we got to really identify what was their target market and write a business plan for them through multiple iterations and pitches, where we had to do like value proposition pitches, elevator pitches, and then the final presentation. And I think that was really fun because you can work with an external stakeholder, but they also know your student. So there's really like not that much pressure to be like, oh, you have to hit X and Y and Z. It's more like, show us what you can do. Yeah. And they were also very supportive in just helping us understand who they really were as well. And it's cool that you're able to look back maybe after 2 years since I've taken and see where that company has gone. And for someone who is interested about the certificate but like is kind of on the fence about it, I mean, there really is no, like, you won't lose anything because it's very simple to enroll. I think you just go onto the Chang Institute's website, you hit apply, and then go from there. Because if you don't try and you say you don't like it, then you're wrong because you didn't try it. Exactly. But yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah, you can't knock it till you try it,
yes.
Which I think is such an overused term. But in this case, it's true. Yeah. It's true. Like there's so many great opportunities within the certificate program.
Yes.
Pulling back to Tech E, in your Biz 477 Startup Experience course in the Tech E program, I want to know about your journey. I want to know about the experience that you had with said startup.
Yes. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but our startup was Mad Technology, and it was in the health realm where the problem that we were trying to solve was how can we better support seniors through fall prevention and fall detection. And this problem really came about from my own personal experiences with my grandparents who may have, or who lived alone, and they would have their own walker, but they would always be on the ground, and no one's at home to really help them up. And knowing my elderly grandparents, it's really hard to pick yourself up. Yeah. If you're, like, I'm heavy myself and like trying to help someone else, they can cause back pain. So at the end of the capstone, we kind of created a prototype product where our team of mechatronic engineering students, they were able to build an algorithm to detect different types of falls, and it would alert whoever was on like the phone list. And we also had like a GPS tracking in case like your grandmother leaves the house and you don't know where she is. So that was what we did. And I think the journey of the Tech E program, it was a whirlwind because it is a 8-month program and you really get to experience the problems that you would experience in a real world startup. But in Biz 477, Doug Ford, who was the instructor, he really teaches you the importance of validating assumptions and talking to your customers first before anything else. And I think that's like a huge learning moment for myself when I'm trying to also build some ventures on the side right now, where you really need to make sure that the problem that you're trying to solve is the problem of other people as well and not just you. So yeah, I think I kind of mentioned a little bit about our journey. It was ups, downs, but it was a great experience. And Biz 47, the most important was just validating assumptions in everything you do.
That's fantastic. And you also made mention of the pain point identification, which is something that is seriously so important when you are starting out a new venture. Knowing exactly what the problem is that you want to focus on and the people that you're working to help out in your venture. That right there in and of itself is creating a venture, and that is entrepreneurship at its finest. I would say. So now we're sort of in this place where we know a lot about Vivian Wong. We know a lot about you, and you've done a lot within the SFU programming. My next question for you, I guess, would be, what's next? Where do you see yourself down the line as you continue your journey in entrepreneurship and innovation?
Yes, I mean, that's a great segue as well. I think once you're a recent grad, you start thinking of like, what's next, right? And I'm like, I don't know what's next. But I think what's next for me in particular, specifically in entrepreneurship, is just reminding myself that I did so many cool things at SFU because of the Chang Institute that I should not waste that opportunity that I did have and like cut it off like after school. So like continuing entrepreneurship. My friend and I were actually starting like a food-based venture that just started this past May, and it's really just to be part of the solution of bringing people together and celebrating and sharing Asian food and culture. And as I'm saying this is like the first time we're announcing it publicly as well. But we are called Meal Plus. Can I plug myself? Like,
do it.
If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at mealplus.ca. And we also have a website, www.mealplus.ca as well. But I think it's also just for myself, keeping an open mind and seizing every opportunity. A lot of things, but no, I don't know yet.
Well, whatever it may be, I'm so excited for the journey that you're on right now. You've done some incredible things.
Thank you.
And I'm sure our listeners are very appreciative of hearing all the stories and the wisdom that you had to share with them.
Yes.
And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the Inspiration Station podcast today, Vivian.
Yes.
It's been such a pleasure. To close out our episode today, where can our audience find you?
You can follow me on LinkedIn, and it's just Vivian Wong. And I'd be more than happy to have a virtual coffee chat. Feel free to reach out to me.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Vivian.
Yeah.
Thank you so much once again for being here.
Thank you, Carson.
And with that, thank you so much for listening to our episode today. I've had a blast. I hope you did as well. And I look forward to joining you on the next episode of the Inspiration Station.
Woohoo!
Bye!